Hi, we are back today and we're going to cook cookies. I have our cookbook here and we are going to be cooking the chocolate chip cookies. We are doing thin and puffed. These two recipes, we are testing how the fat content changes the texture of the cookies. I believe in addition to the fat, the other ingredients will cause the thin cookies to be brown and crispy and the puffed cookies to be light and white. Cookies we'll be starting with will be our thin cookies. We are going to start by adding 1.5 cups of the Great Value all-purpose flour. This has a higher protein, so it's going to cause the cookies to be a little bit darker, as well as drier and crispier, because it soaks up a lot more water. Next, we are going to sift in Morton sea salt fine. We'll put in 3/4 of a teaspoon of that, as well as 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. This will help neutralize the acidity of the brown sugar we'll add later, as well as help the cookie brown. I do not have my sifter with me today, so we are going to use a fork to help blend everything. It will still break up those big clumps of flour while incorporating all the ingredients. Here comes the star of our show today. It is Great Value salted sweet cream butter. With its low melting point, it allows the cookie to spread out and become thin when cooking in the oven. It is the main fat source of this recipe, as we are adding 10 tablespoons. Next, we are going to add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. This will cause the cookie to be hard and crisp as it cools down because of the recrystallization of the sugar. And we are also going to add 1/3 of a cup of the Great Value light brown sugar. This will cause the cookie to be moist and chewy. Now we are going to cream them together until light and fluffy. Doing this will incorporate air bubbles, causing the texture to be lighter. Now that is mixed together, we are going to add 3 tablespoons of Caro light corn syrup. This will cause the cookies to brown and be more crispy on the surface. We will also add our 2 tablespoons of my organic whole milk, and we will beat together thoroughly. The milk will allow the cookies to spread and become thin in the oven. Our last wet ingredient will be the Baker's Imitation Vanilla, and we are going to add 1 tablespoon of that and blend in. Once the vanilla is fully incorporated, we are going to add in our flour mixture we made at the beginning. We're going to gradually pour it in as the blender is at low speed. This way, 1, it does not fly out of the blender, because it's happened to me before and I don't want to clean up a flour mess, and 2, so the dough can fully incorporate the flour. This is what my dough is looking like after I incorporated all the flour. Next, we are going to scrape down the sides to get it ready to add our 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. After we add those, we are going to mix it in for about 5 seconds and then use our scraper to kind of move those chocolate chips further to the bottom of the bowl. Now I'm portioning off the dough to put into the oven. I am using my tablespoon as recommended by the book. I am leveling it off and then scooping it onto a cookie sheet with parchment paper. I am also placing them to about 2 inches apart just so they don't touch while baking. The oven has been heated to about 375 Fahrenheit, and we are going to put these sheets in for 12 minutes apiece. We are going to get started with the second cookie recipe, which is our puffed cookie recipe. We are going to be following the same procedures, we're just switching out some of the ingredients. First is going to be our all-purpose flour for our new Swan's Down cake flour. We will be adding 1.5 cups of this flour, and it will absorb less water, allowing the steam to puff up the cookie. Instead of using baking soda, we will be using Clabber Girls baking powder. We will be adding 1.5 teaspoons. This will allow the cookie to bake faster and spread less. I added 3/4 of a teaspoon of the same salt I used earlier and blended it as before. We are going to be adding 9 tablespoons of my meat and vegetable shortening from Great Value. Shortening has a much higher melting point, so it won't allow the cookie to spread in the oven. The recipe calls for us to take 1 cup of sugar and take 1 tablespoon of sugar out of it. That way we make room for the 1 tablespoon of brown sugar we will add later. We are using so much white sugar to offset the drying effects that the egg whites have on the cookies. We are going to cream these together until light and fluffy, just like before. And once they are combined, we are going to add our 1 large cage-free brown egg. The egg will create a cake-like texture and hold the cookie together while baking. Once we blend that egg in, we will follow the same steps as we did for the last recipe. We will add our 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract, the same ones we used earlier, and blend that in. Once fully combined, we will slowly and gradually add our flour mixture into the mix on low speed. Once that is fully incorporated, we will add 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips and then blend together for about 5 seconds and then finish hand blending it. Then, after that is all done, we will portion it off for the oven about 2 inches apart and then put them into the oven at 375 for about 12 minutes. These are my results. Those are the thin ones and those are the puffed ones. You can tell the thin ones are overall more chewy, crispy, and brown. The puffed ones are a lot lighter in complexion and a lot more cake-like. I will say I have had the in-between options and those are my favorite, but these turned out just as fine. I believe my predictions were pretty accurate and thank you for watching.